Everyone is speaking out about this as the Boston Celtics have a key piece in Luke Kornet, as the truth was revealed over these last couple games that with him missing, there is a vacant spot in the backup center position, and he truly is the guy for the Boston Celtics, doing all the untangibles and being a fantastic piece in Joe Mazzulla's offense and defense. So we're going to be breaking down what impacts Luke Kornet brings for this Celtics team and ultimately what he was missing with the Boston Celtics over these last couple of games with him being out. We'll be getting into all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and I want to say shout out to everyone that has tuned into the stream, has showed support, has even come through in the weekly live streams, which we had one yesterday. You guys have been absolutely fantastic, and I really do appreciate all the love you guys have been given. But if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this Celtics team, make sure to hit the subscribe button and come through for those weekly streams as we discuss everything Celtics here on this channel. But without further ado, let's dive in and let's get into the news, and make sure to grab that snack as the truth kind of came out about this Boston Celtics team over these last couple games, over this back-to-back. And you might be asking, what's the truth? Well, the truth is that Luke Kornet is one of the most underappreciated centers in the NBA. He has one of the best contracts in the NBA, and he is so valuable for this Celtics team. And we're obviously going to display and discuss with all of that meaning in this video. But first off, before we get into that, I want to say that I'll be the first person to admit that I was wrong with Luke Kornet, as even dating back when starting Celtics Digest and talking about this team, I thought that he was a guy that ultimately would be a guy trying to fit in with the Celtics team, competing with guys like Neemish Queta and Xavier Tillman. But clearly, Luke Kornet has set himself miles apart and away from those guys, and it was clearly put on display over these last couple games and why he was missed and what he is needed and what he's been able to do for this Celtics team so far this season. So I want to say, foremost, that I was completely wrong on my Luke Kornet evaluations, and that clearly he is one of the most valuable players for this second unit for the Celtics. And we'll get into that here as we look at this stat from AOP NBA, where we see that Luke Kornet is one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA, just behind Walker Kessler, and adding possessions for this Boston Celtics team. And he truly does that fantastically for this squad. And as we saw over these last couple of games, he was out with personal reasons. So I do hope for Luke that he is A-okay, and whatever happened, gets taken care of. I obviously don't want to rush him back, obviously, but it has been tough for the Boston Celtics without Luke Kornet, as we saw, obviously, versus Toronto. They had no Luke Kornet, no Al Horford, and no Kristaps Porziņģis. So they were running, Neemish Queta and Derrick White in that center block, and Torrey Craig at the center position for a little bit, and Tatum at the center position for a little bit, trying to give some variance there. But versus the Detroit Pistons, Kristaps and Horford were back with Jrue, and unfortunately for the Celtics, Luke wasn't there. And even with those guys like KP, Jrue, Al, all back in the lineup alongside Queta, it was clearly shown that Luke Kornet is a valuable piece for this Celtics team off this bench. And in these games, the Celtics realistically really need him defensively to help out with everything that they do. And we're going to look at Luke Kornet's advanced statistics here as we look at how he looks as an offensive player and a defensive player. And this is courtesy of Crafted NBA. But as we can see, he is a very solid offensive and defensive player with, a very solid passer rating on the offensive side. Like we mentioned, an offensive rebounding percentage of 1.6 value into the 92 percentile, and a very good true shooting percentage as well. As we all know, Luke Kornet doesn't shoot the threes as much, and a lot of Celtics fans kind of question why he doesn't shoot that three, but it's because he's a lot valuable in other places for this Celtics team, as a rebounder, as a screen setter, as a guy giving that Kornet contest when he wants to have fun, as a passer, and as much as many other things that he brings to this squad, a lob threat, everything else. Luke Kornet truly is that guy that really does it all for this Celtics team and on the bench and as a center, and is a hype man as well. As the game where Jaden Springer went off versus the Los Angeles Clippers and kind of won us that game coming back in the third quarter, Luke Kornet was the first guy off the bench to really congratulate him and be that ray of sunshine for him. So not only is he a great player on the court, but also off the court, but also on the court as a teammate as well. He is one of the bigger supporters. But we dive back into those stats for Luke Kornet defensive rebounding, rim defense, he's one of the top players as well. And his block percentage is also very effective. We want to look at Luke Kornet's stats so far on the season. That is not Luke Kornet. Here he is. Here's Luke Kornet. He is averaging 5.2 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.6 assists on 0.9 blocks, 0.5 steals on 66% shooting from the field. We all know Luke Kornet doesn't take threes, but 71% of his twos are assisted on the 7-2. Big man has been absolutely fantastic. And like I mentioned, he really does everything for this Celtics team and does all those little things that you need. And at the beginning of the season, I would say that Peyton Pritchard was kind of the most valuable MVP type player for this bench, as he was, that secondary scorer for this Celtics team really early on and has led that sixth man of the year race. But I would like to argue and vouch for Luke Kornet as also being one of those as valuable pieces for this Celtics team. And not to mention, he's on a $2 million contract and took a pay cut to come back to this Boston Celtics team this season. I'm hoping for the Celtics that they are able to reward him in those regards because, like I mentioned, he clearly is in a realm of his own compared to these backup bigs. Like I said with Namish Queta has some defensive efficiency flaws still. He doesn't know where to be on the court sometimes. He's a little antsy, a little aggressive, gets into some foul trouble. We saw him get into some early foul trouble versus the Raptors when the Celtics didn't really have any centers, and that was, very tough for the team. He's still a little bit of a raw prospect, and he has talent, don't get me wrong, but he's not as consistent as Luke Kornet, and that's why Joe Mazzulla trusted in Luke Kornet, starting with him, in Abu Dhabi versus the Denver Nuggets in the preseason without having Kristaps Porziņģis. He knew that Luke Kornet was the guy that he could trust, and he was going to be the big that could realistically help them all. Being the passing big, getting an extra touch in, Luke Kornet's going to give up that extra pass to help out Derrick White, Peyton Pritchard, whoever it is in the corner to get that basket. You need to fight for an extra rebound. All right, Luke Kornet's going to go get that. You want him to help get a nice block down low. Luke Kornet will go do that. Luke Kornet will do everything on the court to help out the team, and he knows where to be in the right spots as well. Unfortunately for Xavier Tillman, he's been a little bit slower this season, has been able to get that three ball down, and just hasn't been given that much run or length so far this season, has looked a little bit slower defensively as well, and I don't want to hate on to Xavier Tillman, but clearly he's just not at the player that we saw last season in the NBA Finals. Maybe he's still injured, maybe it's just because he hasn't gotten that much playing time, but like I said, a guy in Luke Kornet is ahead of those guys in Tillman and Queta by ballparks, miles ahead at this point, and arguably should be valued as one of the best backup centers in the NBA and should be getting a contract north of 6, 8, possibly even $10 million potentially in the future for how well that he is able to play this type of role. You look at a guy like Yusuf Nurkic in the NBA making $18 million, and he basically can't do anything. And Luke Kornet is making $2 million, having better stats than him. It's just absolutely crazy to see. I'm hoping for Luke Kornet with his attachment to Boston and with, him loving to be here and coming off the bench with this team, that the Celtics are able to find a long-term solution with the backup big as well, due to the fact that he's been so successful for this team in so many ways and has been, a little bit of a bright spot as well for this squad. But I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. So let me know what you guys think down below, because I saw a lot of people tweeting out last night during the Pistons game that they missed Luke Kornet and that they wanted him back. And truly, I felt the same way. He's been very, very appreciative this season, and I will definitely say and take my words back and say I was wrong on Luke Kornet, but I'm very happy that he is a Boston Celtic. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, how you ultimately feel about this Celtics team and how you perceive Luke Kornet in this lineup. Like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out.